The Long Goodbye by Raymond Chandler, book review. So I actually picked this book up in an airport just because I needed something to read on the plane and kind of in part because there wasn't a lot of other selection at the airport. That being said, Raymond Chandler is one of those authors I've always been kind of meaning to read. If you're not familiar with him, he writes kind of hard-boiled detective novels, but he's got a very good reputation, even kind of among kind of the highbrow literati crowd. Supposedly, according to the critics, he's the guy who, there was a lot of people writing kind of detective stories in the 1930s. But he's the guy who kind of turned it into an art form and kind of made, his novels about hard-boiled detectives kind of elevated to the status of art. This is the first and, I regret to say, so far only book I've read by Raymond Chandler. I really should pick up more of his books because I did enjoy this one. But yeah, based off my experience of this book, my impression is that he is an author who is in no hurry to get the story going. So if his character is going to walk into a house to meet another character, you can bet there will be a detailed description of the front walk-in and what the house smells like. It's that kind of book. Now, this caught me off guard because I've actually not read a lot or any of kind of the hard-boiled detective series from like the 1930s, 40s when these books came out. But I was expecting these books to be a lot more action-paced or have a lot more kind of action and sleaze in them. The slow pace of this book kind of caught me off guard, but once I made my peace with the slow style, then I actually did start to enjoy the narration. If you just kind of relax, enjoy the ride, it can be quite interesting. But just by way of counterexample, and again, I don't have a lot of experience with the genre of detective stories, but one experience I did have was reading the Sherlock Holmes books earlier. And the average Sherlock Holmes story is only about 20 pages, which I thought that's about the perfect amount of time for a mystery. Because, you don't want to be kind of spending weeks wondering who the killer is. You want to kind of set it up, let it boil for like a couple hours, however long it takes somebody to kind of read through 20 pages, and then kind of resolve it. Don't leave it hanging for too long. This book, The Long Goodbye by Raymond Chandler, is close to 500 pages. And I'm a slow reader, so this took me about a month to finish. And yet, it was all right. I never really lost too much sleep wondering who the murderer was. Part of this is because after a while, the murder that starts out the story is no longer the main point. The story gets complicated and it goes off in other directions. But it all ties together at the end. So, all those story plot threads do come together. Mixed in with the story, kind of in addition to the plot and the murder mystery, there's also a fair amount of social criticism here. Criticism of both the corrupt justice system and also the corrupt business and corrupt government. In short, if you've got the patience for this kind of book, and again, it's not, even though it's a hard-boiled detective story, it's not as fast-moving as you think it's going to be. But if you've got the patience for it, it's a very enjoyable read.